Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlene. Today we're going to be talking about the books that I'm planning to read in April, but I will be honest, this TBR is going to be a lot smaller than my other TBRs have been so far this year because I just need to have less books that I'm trying to get to each month. So in the past few months this year, I've talked about that I have 4 priority books that I'm trying to get to each month, and they are a priority for one reason or another. However, in April, one of those is no longer on my list. Not that it's going to be gone completely, it's just not on my list for April. And that is my in real life book club that I'm doing with my brother and sister-in-law. Now, each year we take the months of June, July, and August off from our book club to do some other reading things instead. But I talked to them recently and all of us are falling behind on the books in this book club. So we decided to also take off the months of April and May to give us a chance to get caught up, and then we will also have the summer off. So we have 5 months to get caught up on all of these book club books. So I will not have a book on my TBR for that book club for the months of April through August. I do still have the other 3 books on my list, so we're going to start with those. So the first book is for my personal book club, which is called Distant Lands Book Club, and I will have the information for that listed down in the description below. There is a book club page on Fable, and I also have an Instagram account for it, so you can follow either one of those if you want to join in with us. But the book I picked for April is The Book Jumper by Mechtel Glezer, who is a German author, so this was originally published in German. This is a YA fantasy, and all I really remember about this one is that the main character, Amy, finds out that she is a book jumper, that she can jump into books. Beyond that, I don't remember anything about it, but I did read The Forgotten Book by this author about 1.5 years ago. Really enjoyed it. It was a clean book, so I'm hoping this one is as well. Unfortunately, The Book Jumper and The Forgotten Book are the only 2 of her books, as far as I know, that have been translated into English. I'm hoping more of her books will get translated to English, but we'll see. My co-host for April is Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia, so she and I will be reading this book together, and then we will have a live stream together in late April where we will be discussing the book. All of the details on that will be coming later in April, so keep your eye out for that on both this channel and on Instagram. But I am really looking forward to getting to this because, like I said, I did really enjoy her other book. Then the second priority book that I have is for the Celebrating Jane Austen read-along that I am doing with Anne from In Search of Wonder this year. December of this year will be Jane Austen's 250th birthday, so we put together this read-along, and we're reading through all of Jane Austen's works, as well as some of the works that inspired her writing. And so the book we're going to be reading in April is Pride and Prejudice, which is her second published novel. This is the only one of her works prior to this year that I have read in full. So I do already know the story for this one. I really enjoyed it the first time. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed my time reading it. And now having seen a couple adaptations of it, I've come to appreciate it even more. So I'm really looking forward to rereading this one. And if you don't know what this book is about, it is predominantly about Elizabeth, but we get stories on her entire family. And when the book begins, there is a man named Mr. Bingley who has recently moved into the area where the Bennet family lives. And the Bennet family is comprised of, I believe, 5 daughters. It's either 5 or 6. I'm pretty sure it's 5. Elizabeth Bennet is the second oldest. And her mother's main concern is finding husbands for all of her daughters. And so Mr. Bingley has moved in, so she's hopeful that maybe one of her daughters can marry him. And the first time they meet him in a social gathering, he's also there with his friend Mr. Darcy, who Elizabeth immediately does not get along with. So the story is partially about the relationship between the 2 of them, but it's also about the Bennet family in general and the things that happen with these girls throughout the story. 3 of the girls primarily. Again, I really enjoyed this the first time I read it, and assuming that I will enjoy it even more upon a reread. Then the third priority book that I have is I have been wanting to read one new release each month this year. And so the one that I have picked for April probably comes as no surprise, but it is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is a prequel to The Hunger Games, and it is Haymitch's story from when he was a tribute. I don't know any more than that. I know he was part of a quarter quell because his was the 50th annual Hunger Games. And I believe that was the one where twice as many tributes were sent into the arena. So instead of 2 tributes from each district, 1 boy and 1 girl, it was 2 boys and 2 girls from each district, if I'm remembering the quarter calls right. I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes finally a couple years ago, and I really enjoyed that book, even though I know a lot of other people didn't. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to enjoy this one as well. It did come out in late March, but I knew it was coming out late enough in March that I was not going to get to it by the end of the month. So that's why it's going on my April TBR instead. All right, then I just have 2 other books that I'm planning to get to in the month of April, at least as far as what I'm officially putting on my TBR. The first one is a buddy read that I'm doing with Anne from In Search of Wonder. She actually bought this for me for Christmas last year and was really interested in reading it herself, so we decided to do a buddy read this spring. And that is A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventures by Angela Bell. And I know I've read the synopsis on this. I don't remember it that well off the top of my head, but I do know it seems to be a combination of the Nutcracker and Around the World in 80 Days, but also with a steampunk feel. And all the reviews I have heard about this book so far seem to be really positive. So with what it's based on and the positive reviews that I've heard, I'm very hopeful that this is one that I will end up enjoying. All right, then I have just one other book that I'm planning to get to. I was really hoping to get to this one last year because I pre-ordered it, but I didn't manage to. But you will notice there are some reading challenges that I'm doing throughout the year, but only one of them am I actually picking a book ahead of time and putting it on my TBR, and that is the Reading the Classics challenge that Anne is hosting this year. And the reason why I didn't mention it right after the other priority books is because the prompt for April is to read a memoir. Now, I don't know for sure of any classic memoirs that I personally am interested in reading. The only one I came across that I actually didn't realize was a memoir was Cheaper by the Dozen. But I'm trying to get through more of the books that are already on my TBR that I've already been wanting to get to. So this isn't technically for the Classics Reading Challenge because the book I'm wanting to read is not a classic. But it is a book about a couple classic authors, so I'm going to do that instead. And that is The Mythmakers by John Hendricks. Why I didn't get to this last year, I'm not entirely certain, except for the fact that I think I was falling behind on all my TBRs just the same way I have been this year. So I'm hopeful, since this should be a quicker read, that I can get through this in the month of April. And this book has been talked about so much, you probably know what it's about, but in case you don't, it is about the friendship between J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. And John Hendricks is a Christian author, so I'm assuming their religion and how Tolkien helped teach Lewis about the Christian faith and bring Lewis to faith is going to play a role in this book as well. I read The Faithful Spy by him I think a couple years ago, and really enjoyed that book. And that one is about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, so I'm assuming I'm going to really enjoy this one as well. Hello, future Charlene here, because I forgot a book for this month. I forgot that I am also buddy reading The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo with Dia from Novel Idea. And it looks like we're adding a couple other people to our buddy read, so I'm also going to be buddy reading this with Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia and Lauren. I don't know if Lauren has a channel. If she does, I'll have her link down in the description below. But she is joining us as well. Tiffany, I know, is reading this for the first time, and I know Dia is rereading this, and this is also a reread for me. This is the book that I consider my favorite classic of all time, but it's been probably close to 10 years since I read this book. And I'm really hoping I still enjoy it just as much on a second read, but at the same time, I almost can't imagine that I wouldn't. So we'll see. But yeah, I wanted to keep a smaller TBR, and I forgot about a chunky book that was supposed to be on my TBR, and I didn't mention it. And if you're not familiar with the book, because the book is very different from the Disney movie, The Hunchback of Notre Dame follows several people throughout the city of Paris. We have Quasimodo the Hunchback, the titular Hunchback, who is not titular in the French title. The French title is simply Notre Dame of Paris. We have Frollo, who in the book is actually an archbishop, and he takes in Quasimodo when he is left as a foundling outside of Notre Dame Cathedral. Then we have Esmeralda, who is a gypsy girl living in what is called the Court of Miracles. And again, unlike the Disney movie, it is not this hidden secret place. I gather because this place is also mentioned in Les Mis that it was publicly known, it was outside. Like, people knew what it was, people knew where it was, and it was a real thing. Then we also have Captain Phoebus, who Esmeralda ends up becoming infatuated with. But the whole story plays out very differently from the Disney movie. The one thing the Disney movie did get right is that there is kind of this love square in that Esmeralda is interested in Captain Phoebus, but then you also have Frollo and Quasimodo who are interested in her. But other than that, a lot of the story is vastly different from the Disney movie. So if you've only watched the Disney movie, I would recommend reading this and at least giving it a try. But I'm very much looking forward to getting to this one and being able to discuss it with so many people. Alright, so those are all of the books that I am hoping to get to in April. If you've read any of these books that I am planning to read, let me know what you thought of them down in the comments below. Also, let me know what book are you most looking forward to getting to in April. Other than that, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.